Hi, in this video, you're going to hear about the last degrees of Sagittarius and how impactful it is to you personally and collectively out there. And if you have been feeling tired, lethargic, you're not alone because we just encountered the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. If you don't already know me, I'm Ev Zervadakis, the founder of Holistic Healing Astrology. So what we're going to do is show you the chart of the sky right now so you could follow along, and it will make a lot more sense. I'd like to read you a quote from Albert Einstein, one of my faves. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. That, my friends, is a good description of astrology. And one of the mysterious things going on right now in this day and age is the three-eye atlas, which is a comet, but it's a very strange behaving comet. Well, isn't that interesting that this comet came closest to the Earth at the time of the new moon and the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, among all these other, I believe, 9 different aspects in the sky, things going on in the sky. So it's a very, very powerful time in history where we have a blending of the mysterious with what is known. It's shaking up what we think we know. And it's a time where the 3 outer planets, which are, I'll show you here, this is the depiction of the sky right now, December 22nd at 4:21 p.m. Virginia Beach. Okay. Well, the outer planets is what we look at for long-term effects. And the 3 outer planets that are in contact with one another are the 3 slowest outer planets. I always start with the slowest to the fastest. And that's what we do when we look at transits, which is the circulating, orbiting planets in the sky in real time, and then how they would impact on your natal chart. So we have to look at the signs and the degrees because we want to be within 2 or 3 degrees of the actual configuration in the sky. So let's look at Pluto. Pluto is in 2 degrees right now, conjunct the moon. So we might be a little overly emotional, and it's 2 degrees, but the moon moves so fast, we don't pay attention. That's why mood, moon, same thing, okay? And it's emotions and reactions. But the most important thing that we have to look at now is Pluto is sextile to Neptune. So Pluto has a very long orbit and cycle. It's about 250 years to go around the whole zodiac. So it's going to be in Aquarius for another 20 years, okay? Neptune is another slowpoke. It's in the last degree of the whole zodiac of 360 degrees. That's intense. This is a critical point. And it's in its rulership sign of Pisces, Neptune. Neptune has to do with dreams, illusions, delusions, escape, music, anything that helps us escape, meditation, arts, and dance. Also, it's victimhood, it's spirituality, and it's magic and fantasy, it's hypnosis, it's sleeping, anything in that realm. It's that realm of going with the flow and not having any structure or plan. And Pluto is the major transformer, transformation, endings, death, physical death, spiritual death, but an end for a new beginning. And it could be a crisis to cause this ending, okay? So the 60-degree difference between Pluto and Neptune suggests opportunities and support. They support each other. This could be dreaming of transformation or just giving it all up to the unknown and fantasy and see what happens. But it's a major change. Irreversible change is Pluto. Neptune is in Pisces, which is rulership. It has similar energy, which makes it very strong. But what do we have here next to Neptune is Saturn. And Saturn energy is reality. And you could look at this and say, making your dreams a reality, if you choose to, because we live in a quantum world right now. So it's up to you how you're going to use these energies. These planets are like coins. They're actors. And you could use them in a positive way or a negative way. A positive way would be to engage in the arts, dancing, music, as I said before, okay? A negative way would be to drink and do drugs to escape and be the victim, okay? Now, two sides of the coin on Saturn, because when these two planets are together, they blend the energy. It's like putting them in a smoothie. So we have to blend the energy. Saturn is realistic. It's also the hard work, it's structure, it's accomplishment, it's goals, it's discipline, it's responsibility, it's serious, it's the elder, it's wisdom, okay? And you learn from Saturn because Saturn is about, hey, I'm going to try it. If I fail, I'm going to try again. If I fail, I'm going to try again. And that's why a lot of people go, oh, this dreaded Saturn return, because that's when it finishes a cycle. So the moment that you were born, let's say, was 25 degrees Pisces. So when Saturn returns to 25 degrees Pisces, after about 28 years, then you are more mature than you were in the beginning. And that will happen with a midlife crisis when you're around 60. And you'll get it again when you're 90. Okay? So it's like looking forward, looking backwards, and saying, okay, that's what I've done. That's what I accomplished. Because Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn. And you say, okay, now what am I going to do moving forward? And usually if it's the third return, or when you're 90 and you're 60 and 90, you're going to be the elder and teaching what you already learned, okay? So this is our responsibility on how we're going to spiritually grow. And you could take that to any level you want. If you're into hypnosis and you want to create some kind of structure as far as a business with hypnosis, that would work for you, especially if it's in the 10th house or in the 6th house or even in your first house, okay? Now, the third planet that's holding hands with the third outer planet is Uranus. And that has to do with sudden, unexpected changes, electrical, exciting, lightning bolt type of energy, insights, vision, freedom, revolution. And these placements on a predictive level will suggest what can happen during these times as they cycled in the past, because Uranus is going to go into Gemini and Neptune is going to go into Aries, and Pluto the last time was in Aquarius. We as astrologers look back in history and see what was going on. And that's how we make these predictions. The only real prediction and true prediction, 100%, this is the science, is I could predict that Uranus is going to move into Gemini, and I could predict that Neptune is definitely going to go into Aries, 0 degrees, which is called an Aries point. I can make these predictions. And also with Pluto, I could predict that it's going to be in 2 degrees Aquarius, which means it's going to be trine, an easy flowing energy to all this unexpected and exciting change. It could be, they say, oh, well, it could be the war, civil war. That's what happened the last time. And I'll talk more about that later. However, Neptune with Pluto and Neptune with Uranus is support and opportunities. Okay? So these changes are supported by Saturn and Neptune. And you could look on your natal chart and see, is anything in your chart, in your natal chart, around 28 degrees of an earth sign or Taurus, or 29 degrees of a water sign or Pisces, and 2 degrees of Aquarius or an air sign. And if you do have just one of those, that means that these planets, 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are going to impact you, even if it's just one planet. Now, if that planet in your natal chart is part of a configuration like a T-square, a grand trine, mystical rectangle, finger of God, any one of those patterns, then it's going to affect you even stronger, more strong, super strong. Steroids, strong. Okay? So you see here, there's a lot going on. Now, they say that when these planets were lined up, all 3 together, you know when that was? About 5,000 years ago, 4,261 BC, something like that. It was during I believe it's the Neolithic period, where humans just started using language and tools, and it's evolutionary because it started a whole new way of living for the human. Became more stationary, less nomadic, and it developed language. At that time was the development of language and intellect and things like that. Imagine that. So now we're in for a renaissance of this kind of explosion of energy in that area. We've never seen anything like it. So we're very fortunate to be alive at this time, to witness this. We're part of it. So we chose to incarnate during this period because we're part of the solution. We're part of what's going on. We're part of this whole thing. So look on your chart and see what role you're going to be playing. And as you know, I always look at the complete picture, because these planets are never alone up there. I deal with all the planets and the abstract points of the North Node and the South Node, plus Black Moon Lilith and Chiron. I don't use the other planets, not planets, well, there are other planets. There are 10 planets that were discovered in the outer portion of our solar system, 10 planets in the last 2 years. Sedna's one of them. And her cycle is, I think, 10,000 years. And so the planet takes on the energy of when we discover it. For example, we discovered Pluto during the atomic age, the bomb, the Manhattan experiment, and we discovered Uranus during the time when they discovered electricity. It goes hand in hand, okay? There's an association with newly discovered celestial bodies and what is going on the planet Earth. That's why 3I Atlas came closest to the Earth, and people are describing that energy as peace and harmony. And that's what the signature is so far. But the great astrologers that are doing a lot of research on 3I Atlas will come up with some keywords and see, because we're still trying to figure out what exactly is impacting this energy, how it's going to unfold. We still have some time to look at that. But we are in some revolutionary times. We are in a renaissance for learning, innovation, and that's all part of Pluto. And dealing with invisible worlds, the nanogenetics, the nanotechnology that we have, which nano means super small, subatomic, that's what it is. And these innovations are going to help with medical technology and our finances and the way we learn, everything. Our world is never going to be the same. Flying cars, I mean, just use your imagination, which is Neptune, but your imagination could make these things a reality. AI started with someone's idea. However, I believe it has a long way to go. I mean, if you ever used AI, you could see it has major limitations, but once you master the prompts and you get good results from it, it will save a ton of time. But it can't do everything a human could do. Will it ever do it? I don't know. But the point is, we've never seen times like this. Some astrologers are predicting that we're going to have like another civil war. And it's going to be dangerous. Well, I don't like to put that energy out there because, what we put out is what we receive. But we're already witnessing civil distress and strife on social media. We are killing each other literally with words on social media. How many suicides? How many deaths with these social media influencers have occurred in the last year? Okay? And what people say. And they take their anger and hostility and project it out to the world. But remember, what you individually put out there, it's a boomerang. You're going to get back. So practice love. Practice putting out what you want to get back. You don't want to get back anger. You don't want to get back violence. Violence begets violence. All right? So the stars right now are speaking to us. And once we get closer to the generational planets, their cycles are much quicker. Saturn cycles 28 years, like I said, and Jupiter is 12 years. So they move relatively quickly compared to Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. But Pluto is making contact. It's an opposition right now to Jupiter in Cancer. So Jupiter makes things bigger. And Jupiter is optimism. But sometimes we could be overly optimistic, or we could be overly indulgent, because Cancer has to do with nurturing, care. So this could be a time to overdo it on the self-care, and check and see where 22 degrees Cancer is in your chart, because that's where Jupiter would be impacting. And it's retrograde, which means it swung forward, the planet. Now it's going to swing, it's swinging back, and then it's going to go forward again. So whatever it's doing now to the Pluto and to the North Node and to Saturn and Neptune and the Uranus energy, it will happen again. But you will have a leg up on it, because you'll remember back to December, end of December, and say, oh yeah, I remember that. That's what happened. So then you can make a correction, and your chart or your course in life could be moving in a different way for your own good, for something better. Also, what's going on in the sky, we have Chiron, 22 degrees Aries, and that's making a flow of energy. It's just flowing, this self-healing energy, this mentorship type energy. Maybe you're going to be helping people by mentoring them, teaching them stuff that you already have encountered on a trauma side, and you healed from it, but it goes straight to Black Moon Lilith and Mercury. And that could be any kind of verbal abuse. It could be harsh language, or thinking very harshly about your philosophy or justice, and being overly just, and that kind of energy. And that's how you put it together. But you have to look at these degrees, 13 and 15 degrees. That's another conjunction in Sagittarius, and see how it's playing out in your chart. And that's also making a relationship. They're talking to one another, these two characters, because all the planets are like actors, and they have they're like special action figures. You have Superman and Batman, and you have Harry Potter, and you have Sherlock Holmes, the detective. So they're all in here doing their own thing. But when they talk, this kind of speaking to one another is a quintachili, which means there's an urgency and there's obsession here with the vision of how we want our news to come to us. Okay? Right now it's in Taurus, but it's going into Gemini. There's going to be a big change in how we receive our news and information. Huge. Okay? And that will stay there for the next, I believe, 11 years in the sign of Gemini. So these are very pivotal times. Double check your astrology chart. I still have a couple more seats left for my teaching course, Astrology Made Super Easy. I'm going to be doing another video right after this one and upload it so you can see. I'll have the outline on there so you could see how I do my slideshow presentation. I spend a lot of time, I mean hundreds of hours, to do these presentations for the course. And it's 10 classes, an hour and a half for the month of January into the first week of February. So you'll be able to read an astrology chart almost as good as me, but not quite. But you will really be able to do so much with astrology, more than you'll ever know. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And we also have the stellium too. Stelliums with these quick moving planets, they're personal planets, they change about every month. So when people say, oh, there's an alignment in the sky and it's never been like that, well, what we've never seen is like I said, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus configuration in the particular signs. We have never seen that. And there's been nothing documented on that level from about 4000 BC. Okay. So we have no reference point. But if you jump ahead, like I could show you, and I'm going to pause the video. And you could see here, January 7th, you have a stellium, which is a 30-degree spread of all these energies in Capricorn and then one in Aquarius. But see, that's a lot of energy. So you'll witness that January 7th, and you'll feel it. And if you go forward again, you see, this is still a stellium, including Pluto. So if you have any of these planets, these degrees in the 20s of Capricorn, you're going to feel it. Or a cardinal sign, definitely you'll feel it. And then they're all going to move into the next sign, which is Aquarius. You see how it happens every month. Now you have another stellium in Aquarius because they're personal planets. But when they join up with Pluto, see, it means something. And that will be January 28th. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets. Imagine the child born on February 4th, 2026. You see? Fascinating. This would be a super bright kid. Super bright. Yeah. Very transformative. A lot of action in transformation. Very sci-fi. Very genius. Very different. Okay. This Aquarius is uniqueness. You see, that's how we do it. And then we're going to move into Pisces season. All right. So every month, guys, there you go. Now this is a very powerful stellium here because it's 6 things, 6 planets. And then you have the Neptune Saturn conjunction, Aries point, huge. So this is going to be a very mystical time. And that's February 18th. And I believe we're going to have a new moon on that particular day, if I'm not mistaken, and a solar eclipse, because here's your north node conjunct to the sun within 17 degrees. And there you have it. This is one of the favorable days of 2026. Well, I'll be doing a video on that later. But I want you to know that the stars and the planets are always moving, and keep that in mind. And that's why King Solomon said, and this too shall pass, because everything changes. But the stars and the planets, the way they light up, or line up and light up, they give you a heads up on how you could use that energy. And if you go with the flow, like right now, this video should have been published about 3 days ago, but I was tired. And who wasn't? You know, it's a time where we want to just hibernate and get comfy and not crawl out of bed. You see? So when you work with the energies of the stars, you get better results. All right? If you have any questions, post them below. And until next time, all my love. Bye-bye.